Imagine hitting like a dead end in a maze, right? And your brain somehow convinces you that the solid brick wall in front of your face is its actual proof you're going the right way.
Oh, yeah, like it's supposed to be there.
Exactly. You turn around, you hit another wall, and your mind says, well, perfect, another wall. I must be getting closer to the exit.
Right, which sounds completely absurd.
It sounds totally absurd, but this is exactly how human reasoning can be hijacked. I mean, when you hear a word like brainwashing or, mind control, you probably picture something out of a vintage sci-fi movie.
Oh, for sure. Like a swing-in pocket watch.
Yeah, a pocket watch, a hypnotic trance, or just some mysterious, almost magical force that overrides free will and turns a person into a zombie.
And we culturally default to that image because it's incredibly comforting.
Right. Comforting how?
Well, viewing extreme psychological influence as a binary switch, it's like it allows you to believe that a person is either in their right mind or they have been put under a dark spell.
I see. Because magic spells aren't real.
Exactly. Because they aren't real, we can distance ourselves from the terrifying reality of how belief systems actually capture people.
But what if psychological influence isn't a mysterious force at all? What if it's a measurable, highly specific configuration of physical, informational, and social constraints?
A literal architecture.
Right, an architecture that systematically narrows an individual's ability to reason until they are just trapped. So today we are doing a deep dive into a philosophy of science framework known as the Bridge360 Metatheory Model.
It's a dense one, but so fascinating.
Very dense. And the mission for this deep dive is to understand how this framework treats psychological capture as a structural equation.
Yeah.
We've got a great stack of sources today. We're pulling from theoretical monographs on the Bridge360 framework, some generalized governance algorithms, and this is the in-depth analytical case studies on the Jones Guyana tragedy, famously known as Jonestown.
Right, and the QAnon phenomena.
Yep. Yes, both of those. So to even begin applying the Bridge360 model, you first have to completely discard how you normally categorize the world.
Yeah, you really do. Usually we draw very strict boundaries between like physics, chemistry, the offline physical world, and the online digital world.
Sure, that's just how we live.
But Bridge360 argues that those boundaries are just governance conveniences. In reality, physical systems, social systems, and informational systems all share a single entropy geometry.
Okay, wait, I'm going to need you to stop right there. Because entropy geometry sounds like a term that requires a PhD in theoretical physics to unpack.
Fair enough. It sounds intimidating.
Yeah. How do a physical jungle commune and an internet message board share the exact same geometry?
Okay, so think about entropy simply as a measure of disorder. Right. Or like the number of possible states a system can be in.
Okay.
If you are standing in an open field, your physical entropy is high. You can walk in 360 different degrees.
Got it. Freedom of movement.
Right. But if I put you in a narrow hallway, I have severely restricted your physical entropy. You can only go forward or backward.
Okay, that makes sense.
So Bridge360 argues that information and logic work the exact same way. If you have access to a wide variety of viewpoints and evidence, your informational entropy is high.
You have options.
Exactly. You have options. But if your flow of information is restricted, your cognitive hallway narrows. The geometry is literally the same whether the walls are made of concrete or made of censorship and social pressure.
Wow. So a logical fallacy happening in someone's mind isn't just a quirky mental mistake?
No, not at all.
If it gains enough momentum, it behaves like a physical force. It can literally reshape the world around the person.
It builds the hallway. And to understand how these walls are constructed, the framework introduces a concept called Rules of Inference Memetics, or RIM.
RIM, like memes, basically.
Sort of. Most of us understand what a meme is. A catchy idea, a joke, a tune that spreads from person to person like a virus. But RIM takes that concept into the structural architecture of thought. It argues that it isn't just the content of an idea that replicates, right? It's the rules of reasoning themselves.
Oh, wow.
The actual skeletal structure of how a person draws a conclusion operates like memetic DNA, infecting individuals and institutions.
So people aren't just copying what to think, they're copying the mathematical formula of how to think.
Precisely.
And this brings us to the core engine of the trap. The model pinpoints two very specific logical operators that, when combined, build what is called a pathological inference corridor.
Yeah, that's the technical term,
Right. Okay, let's unpack this. The first is a logical fallacy known as affirming the consequent.
which the framework calls an attractor-strengthening operator.
Yes, and the exact example used in the sources to illustrate this goes exactly like this. If I am correct, then I get criticized, ergo I am correct.
Right, and from a purely logical standpoint, that is completely broken.
Totally. I mean, you could be facing criticism simply because your idea is objectively terrible.
Exactly. But from a psychological and memetic standpoint, that formulation is a masterpiece of defense.
Because it's bulletproof.
Yeah. It acts as an attractor-strengthening operator because it takes any perturbation, any external pushback, new evidence or criticism, and converts it into confirmation.
It makes the belief system anti-fragile. The harder the outside world tries to correct the belief, the more the belief is reinforced.
Right.
You are essentially turning the weapon of your critic into armor for yourself.
And that is only half the trap.
Right. There's a second one.
Yeah, the second fallacy is denying the antecedent, and this one functions as an option pruning operator.
Option pruning, okay.
The foundational example for this one is, if I am the leader, life becomes bearable. I am not the leader anymore. Ergo, life is not bearable anymore.
And again, the logic is totally invalid there.
Completely.
Life could become bearable for 1,000 other reasons without that specific leader. You could find a new community. You could change your circumstances.
But the human brain doesn't naturally seek logical validity. It seeks structural stability. So what this operator does is it systematically eliminates all alternatives. It takes every other possible branch of reality, all the other ways life could be bearable, and converts them into total impossibilities.
Wow.
If the information or the solution doesn't come from the approved source, it is inherently discarded.
I am picturing this as a rigged maze. Affirming the consequent builds the walls higher every time you bump into them.
Yes, exactly.
You hit a dead end, and the maze tells you, hey, the fact that you hit a wall proves you're going the right way. The wall is just the establishment trying to stop you.
Right.
And then denying the antecedent comes in behind you and deletes the doors you didn't choose, convincing you they never existed at all.
It just erases them.
Yeah. Eventually you're walking in a straight, terrifyingly narrow line, but because you're moving forward, you feel like you are still making free choices.
And when you put those two operators together, you create what formal logic refers to as an illicit biconditional.
So in plain English, that means a belief system that is mathematically rigged so it can never, ever be proven wrong.
Precisely. It locks the human mind into a closed recursive loop where external error correction isn't just ignored.
It's impossible.
Yes. It is rendered fundamentally impossible by the rules of the system itself. The maze is sealed. The mental walls are fully built.
Which brings us to the terrifying question of what happens when that mental blueprint is exported into the physical world.
Yeah, the physical instantiation.
Let's look at Jonestown. The tragedy in Guyana usually gets dismissed with that exact oversimplified label we talked about earlier, right? They were a brainwashed cult.
Right, which just stops any real analysis.
Exactly. But viewing it through the Bridge360 model, Jim Jones didn't use a magic spell to force over 900 people to end their lives.
No, he didn't.
He used a centralized structure to progressively and violently contract the physical, social, and informational corridors of his followers.
And the initial migration from California to the jungles of Guyana, that is the starkest physical instantiation of this metatheory.
Because of the isolation.
Exactly. Jones didn't just move his congregation. He combined physical distance with informational distance to drastically alter the entropy geometry of their lives.
Oh, I see.
Back in the U.S., if a member wanted to leave the People's Temple, they certainly faced intimidation and social isolation. But in the South American jungle, the cost of exit became multiplicative.
Multiplicative meaning everything collapses at once.
Right.
To walk out the door in Guyana meant you were simultaneously losing your housing, your family, your physical security in a foreign jungle, your financial foundation because you turned over your assets and your core political and religious identity.
All at the same time.
The exit doors weren't just closed. The cost of opening them became impossibly high for the human psyche to bear.
And within that tightly constrained jungle environment, those two logical fallacies ran rampant as daily governance.
Yeah, affirming the consequent was basically the air they breathed.
It really was. When outside investigations by the press and concerned relatives began to mount, Jones didn't hide them.
He didn't.
No, he framed them to the group as violent persecution. Thus, the fact that they were being investigated proved they were absolutely right to hide.
Wow. The external criticism literally strengthened the internal attractor of the group.
Exactly. And denying the antecedent pruned away any alternative future.
Right, because Jones equated leaving the movement to abandoning the global fight for racial justice and socialism.
Yeah. The logic dictated that outside of his approved corridor, a better world was simply impossible. Therefore, to reject him was to embrace fascism and suffering.
Okay, but I'm stuck on one major thing here, though.
What's that?
The model says these memes prune away alternatives and interpret reality to fit the narrative.
Right.
But in the final moments of Jonestown, U.S. Congressman Leo Ryan actually flew down there. He investigated the camp, and as he was trying to leave with defectors, Jones's men murdered him at the airstrip.
Yeah, they did.
Doesn't that mean the government actually was coming for them? Doesn't that prove the reality was real and not just a memetic trap?
See, what's fascinating here is that this is the most chilling insight of the entire Bridge360 model.
Really?
You are looking at the exact moment the meme became physically instantiated. The pathological inference corridor generated actions murdering a United States congressman in cold blood that manufactured the very persecution and necessity for destruction that Jim Jones had been predicting all along.
Oh, wow. The mental prediction didn't just interpret reality anymore. It actively constructed it.
Exactly. The trap forced the real world to conform to the paranoia. It built the apocalyptic reality it needed to justify its own conclusion.
Which is why the final gathering at the pavilion was so inevitable.
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah.
But there's a crucial detail from the audio recordings of that final day.
Right, Christine Miller.
Yes. A group member named Christine Miller actually stood up, pushed back against Jones, and argued against the mass suicide. She suggested they relocate the congregation to Russia instead.
And her presence alone proves the zombie mind control theory is wrong.
Absolutely.
She was thinking critically. She was looking for an exit door.
Structurally speaking, Christine Miller represented surviving optionality.
Surviving optionality.
Her argument proved that the minds of the people there weren't magically wiped blank. They still possessed the capacity for alternative thought.
Right.
The true mechanical failure of Jonestown wasn't a total lack of alternatives in their heads. It was that the social and physical system had completely lost its reversibility.
Reversibility meaning the ability of the group to actually change course based on new information.
Yes. The alternative inferences, like moving to Russia or facing the authorities, had been so totally pruned away by the compounding physical constraints, the social terror, and just the exhaustion, that Miller's logic no longer possessed enough governance weight to change the group's trajectory.
The system was in an irreversible freefall.
Exactly.
It is deeply unsettling to view such a massive human tragedy as a mechanical failure of a social system.
It really is.
But Jonestown relied on a very specific set of circumstances. A dense, isolated physical jungle, and a highly centralized, charismatic dictator to trap its members. So, what happens when we move into the modern era? What if you take away the physical walls and the central leader? Can this exact same logical trap happen on the open internet?
This is where the Bridge360 Metatheory pivots to the QAnon phenomenon.
Right. And it's crucial to lay down a boundary here for everyone listening.
Right.
Under this framework, we are strictly analyzing the information architecture and the mechanics of belief generation.
Yes, very important.
We are looking at how inference is governed in a digital space, completely independent of political endorsements or condemnations. We are popping the hood to look at the engine, entirely ignoring the bumper stickers.
Well said. And the framework argues that the boundary between the physical jungle of Guyana and the cyberspace of an internet forum is meaningless. Both can host a completely closed inference corridor.
Okay, but contrast the structures for a second. Jonestown was a centralized authority. QAnon was a wildly distributed network.
Very distributed.
There was no single commune to move to. Instead, the movement famously relied on a core injunction to its followers. Do your own research.
Which, on the surface, sounds like the exact opposite of a cult.
It sounds like the ultimate expression of intellectual freedom and skepticism, right?
Yeah.
Don't trust me. Go look it up yourself.
It sounds empowering.
Yeah.
But structurally, what it actually did was outsource the heavy labor of finding patterns to thousands, eventually millions, of individuals.
I see.
It distributed the inference engine across a global network.
And the fallacies we talked about earlier are operating perfectly in that digital realm.
Flawlessly.
The anonymous Q drops, the cryptic messages posted on message boards were notoriously ambiguous. They acted as seeds.
Right.
And because the followers had the entire internet as their search space, They had a near infinite supply of information to use as feedstock for affirming the consequent.
And that is the danger of an infinite search space without a disciplined methodology.
Yeah.
If you predict that a massive, secret global plan is unfolding, and you unleash millions of motivated people to scan global news, social media, flight logs, historical photographs 247 eventually, someone will find a numerical timestamp, an out-of-context quote, or a hand gesture that can be twisted to confirm the initial premise.
The sheer volume of information available online doesn't break the trap. It actually fuels it.
It fuels it completely.
The internet provides endless raw material to build the walls of the maze higher. But what happens when the real world pushes back? When mainstream media debunks a claim or institutions categorically deny what the network is saying?
That triggers the second operator, denying the antecedent.
Okay, the pruning one.
Right. The Bridge360 framework calls this specific dynamic an epistemic diode.
Like in electronics.
Exactly like electronics. A diode allows current to flow easily in one direction, but violently blocks it from flowing in the opposite direction. If the source of information isn't inside the approved ecosystem of the movement, it is inherently correct. Therefore, a denial from a major institution isn't just ignored, it is viewed as absolute proof of the cover-up.
Here's where it gets really interesting. So, having access to unlimited information online absolutely does not mean you have an open mind.
Not at all.
A massive global search space can comfortably coexist with a tiny, incredibly rigid inference space.
Yes. It is the defining paradox of our digital age. Technical connectivity can radically increase at the exact same time that the ability to accept being wrong plummets to zero.
Wow.
Consider what happened when the QAnon network faced massive, undeniably failed predictions, the most prominent being the inauguration in January 2021.
Right.
The mass arrests that had been prophesied for years simply didn't happen.
And by any normal standard of logic, the belief system should completely collapse right there, right? The prophecy failed, the maze is broken.
But the maze didn't break. Because the inference corridor is closed, the failed prediction doesn't shatter the meme. It forces a process called narrative mutation.
Narrative mutation, so they just change the story.
Exactly. The community doesn't abandon the core belief, they just move the goalposts. They decide the dates were interpreted incorrectly, or that the plan is still unfolding in secret, or that the public events are just a movie playing out to trick the enemy.
So the anomaly, the glaring failure of reality to match the theory, actually generates more interpretive activity.
Yes, it feeds the machine.
People rush back to the message boards to figure out the new puzzle, which generates deeper community engagement, which in turn raises the social cost of leaving the group.
It perfectly proves the meta-theory's point.
Yeah.
Human reasoning does not require a physical jungle to become recursively closed.
Right.
A digital collective interpretation, bound by pathological rules of logic, can eventually lead to very real-world physical, social, and political behavior. The entropy geometry is identical.
We have covered a massive amount of incredibly dense ground today. From the geometric structure of entropy in our minds, to the jungles of South America, to the sprawling message boards of the internet.
We really have.
So, what does this all mean for you navigating the world today? If there is a core takeaway from the Bridge360 model, it's a fundamental redefinition of intelligence, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Intelligence isn't just about truth-seeking or accumulating facts. It is about actively maintaining what they call an entropy-bounded possibility space.
It's about protecting your own reversibility.
Yes.
Whether we are analyzing a tragic commune in Guyana or a digital forum on the open internet, the lesson is the same. When a system loses optionality, when it can no longer reverse its course, and when it mathematically deletes its ability to accept external error correction, it becomes dangerously fragile.
The trap isn't magic, it's a loss of navigability.
Exactly.
And viewing it as a structural architecture leads to a rather chilling final thought for us to leave you with today. We have talked about human leaders capturing our inference corridors. We have talked about decentralized human networks doing the exact same thing through crowdsourcing. But there is a massive unexplored implication hiding inside this model regarding the technology we are building right now.
Yeah, this is the really scary part. Consider the rapid rise of hyper-personalized AI chatbots.
Everywhere.
They're integrating into our daily lives at a staggering pace. We are interacting with machines that are explicitly programmed to optimize for user engagement.
Right.
And how do they do that? By constantly agreeing with us, by validating our emotional states, and by perfectly mirroring our logic back to us.
So are we inadvertently building the ultimate Affirming the consequent engine?
We might be.
I mean, if a machine with infinite patience and infinite data constantly tells you that your reasoning is flawless and subtly prunes away the friction of disagreement, you could soon find yourself trapped in a perfectly closed human-machine dyad.
And unlike Jonestown, you won't be trapped in a humid jungle thousands of miles from home. You will be trapped in an impenetrable, algorithmically generated feedback loop, sitting comfortably in your own living room.
Brainwashing isn't a swinging pocket watch. It is a rigged maze. And if we aren't careful with the digital and AI systems we are building right now, we might just be the ones building the walls higher and enthusiastically deleting our own doors.
Well said.
Make sure you always leave a door open.